Good morning, friends. I thought I would do one of my hobby plant reviews, and I've got several mulberries. I kind of lose track even how many mulberries I have. Not that I'm a big collector, but I enjoy the fruit. And this tree is probably my most productive one, and I thought this was DMO R09, which is Makura type. But, either my friend labeling error or my misunderstanding what he told me when he was selling it to me. But this is apparently Pakistani, according to my friend Marta. Very good fruit. Usually I've had to pick them a little underripe because the birds were really vicious on my tree here. And so I netted it, and I should have removed the netting after harvest was done, but I kept getting fruit for a long period of time. I did do some photos before birds kept getting into this netting somehow, and I had to release them many times, and a couple perished, unfortunately. I don't want the birds eating my fruit, but I don't intentionally kill them either. So that's Pakistani, and there's no fruit on it now. This is, I forgot for a moment what it is, but this is Taiwanese Four season mulberry that I got from my friend Ed Chen, whose neighbor had it growing. There's been some question that maybe it's similar to or the same as another variety, I don't know. But this is a tree that will give us ripe fruit at several different times of the year, including, I think in December I picked some, and maybe March I picked some, so forth. It doesn't look real good. I need to fertilize this, I think. It's getting watered well. And then this is a weeping mulberry, and the fruit on it have been small. I think the first time I ate mulberry was in 1981 when I was renting an apartment in Yuba City off of Lincoln Road. And nobody were eating the fruit off of that weeping mulberry, but I remember they're very delicious. I'd go by the office and eat them. This we bought a year ago and planted. It's grown pretty well. It's grafted on some other rootstock that's for a standard, and there was it's like grafted at 5 foot high roughly, or 4.5 foot high, and then from there it grows up slightly within weeks, but it's pretty handy for being able to cover. But the fruit this year were quite small, so I don't know how it'll turn out to be, but it's interesting weeping habit. This is an unknown nigra, and the interesting thing about this is that it's quite dwarf, whereas you'll see in a moment that usually the nigra are very strong, vigorous growers, big wood. Part of the tree doesn't seem to be doing as well. I may have to start another cutting of this, and I might even graft it onto Morus alba, because nigra are typically more difficult to root. Over here is my first mulberry tree, and that's when I found out that mulberry were so easy to root, generally anyway. And this tree started out as Oscars, and friends down in the Phoenix area said that this was the best, and I got some cuttings from them, and I didn't even do anything right away, and I did root 2 cuttings, and I left part of the cuttings just laying on the ground underneath a pear tree next to my old greenhouse. And when I saw the first 2 started growing really well, I go, well, I'll go ahead and try these other 2, and I stuck both of those just in the ground, and both of those rooted also. I gave those away. So it's a Morus alba type, and it roots very easily. But I've used this as rootstock for other trees, so you can see there's different leaf patterns here. I'm not sure why this branches like this, but I've grafted onto it another nigra type, and it's a strong grower. This is Kaester, and I'll spell all of these out in the video description. And It's grown really strong, and it doesn't grow as upright as alba, but it grows, I would say, overall more vigorously. It's thicker growing, and I'll show as a comparison here. Here's the graft, and there is nigra grafted onto alba there. So it's Kaester grafted onto Oscars there. And I do prune this back. Now this fruits later than alba and more a longer season. So I have some fruit here. They're difficult to pick, and you get stains on your hand. I'll just squeeze it, show you some. It's got more acidic flavor than alba, but very tasty. Sweet, but some acidity also. Not real large fruit, but adequate. But you need to be careful eating them. They're hard to find the fruit because they're tucked in underneath the leaves. But also the birds don't get them as much, but they get them some. You can see there's red marks on the leaves from the fruit. So finally, this is a Turkish white mulberry, and I grafted 2 cuttings of that in March, and I did get fruit off of it this year. And Buluklu is the name, and that's apparently from the city in Turkey where it originally came from. It's being grown by some other growers in Northern California, and one of those shared it with me. It's a small white fruit, very sweet, and a tasty fruit though. And so I'll have 3 varieties on this. So that'll give me 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 varieties of mulberry, and that's enough for my needs for sure. Anyway, thanks for watching. This is my mulberry collection.